I'm Alan Kogan. Join me as I highlight small businesses with interviews on site at distilleries, breweries, and more. My mission is to share the stories of the awesome people behind the craft. Welcome to Crafted Conversations. If you tell me any trade secrets that you don't want the world to know, let me know. I'll edit it out.
I will.
Like a little CGI.
If I tell them any trade secrets, I want to take them out back and have a conversation.
You are Italian.
I am. I have cousins you haven't met.
Perfect.
All right.
All right. Well, John, we're here in Norristown, Pennsylvania, just north of Philadelphia at Five Saints Distilling. Mm-hmm. Tell me about yourself and how you got into this awesome business.
Well, first of all, just let me welcome you here.
Yeah,
you had
thank you.
a little bit of a drive from Washington, D.C. You did the Beltway.
Yes, sir.
And I commend you. First of all, I thank him for his service. He's in the reserves. Absolutely. I'll tell you a little bit later a story about the Saints. 4 of them were in the services as well. One was in 2 wars, in fact, the World War II and Korea.
Oh, wow.
But thank you for your service.
I appreciate that.
Never forget.
Thank you.
So what was your question again? I'm sorry.
No, well, tell me about how you got into the business.
Oh, sure. So believe it or not, as I say, I was a respected pharmaceutical executive at one time. Some people might debate the respected part, right? But I was a pharmaceutical exec. And I'm a pharmacist by training. And I've always enjoyed making things, producing physical things. So my career was I was a stock boy in my local pharmacy. I went to pharmacy school, graduated, did retail pharmacy, did hospital pharmacy, went back and got my MBA, and then joined a pharmaceutical company and went into sales, and then got promoted up through the ranks. And the last pharmaceutical company I was with, I was head of intelligence for a very notable vaccine. I'm not going to mention it here, but it is a good vaccine. And in any case, in 2013, I have 3 children, and at the time they were all at home with us.
Sure.
And they had gone to bed early, as did my beautiful young bride, Amy, of at the time 26 years. She had gone to bed too. So I'm surfing the internet at night, and I'm reading all of a sudden about the changes in the pharmaceutical, or not the but the distilling laws. And I was always having a few drinks at the time, right? Just, relaxing, chilling, and investigating.
As you do.
So I came across an article about how the changes in distilling laws allowed small micro distilleries to come on board sooner, faster, with less red tape, etc. And in that was a little blurb, a little link, and I could tell it was a link. And it said Moonshine University. I said, what the blank? So I clicked on it. It said, you too can be a distiller in 5.5 days. I looked up and said, man, this sounds good to me. I enrolled in Moonshine University. So we were the second class. I know. Everybody says, where do you go? You go to Hamburg University for Hamburg. You go to Moonshine University for Moonshine. Down in Louisville, Kentucky. It was the second class. Great school. If anybody really wants to learn distilling, great place to go. Your faculty is well-known and respected distillers. And after 5.5 days, you know enough to be dangerous. So they assign you a very skilled mentor distiller who will take your calls 24/7 because they know if you're calling, you've screwed something up. You need immediate advice, right? Anyways, so that was a 5.5 day course. So 2 days into that course, it was a Tuesday, and I called my wife and I said, Amy is my young bride. I said, Amy, I really like this. I'm going to open a distillery. She goes, we could talk about that when you get home, right? I said, okay. And I said, and I have a name for it too. She goes, oh, you're going to open a distillery and you already got a name. She goes, I'm sitting down. I can't wait to hear this one. What's the name? I said, Five Fathers Distilling. She goes, Five Fathers Distilling, sweetheart. What a great name. Did you think of that? I said, yeah, I thought of that. But the reason that she liked it is because the original name of the distillery, Five Fathers, really is meant to honor the men who I consider to be my 5 fathers. So just deviating a little bit, a little history. I came up upstate New York. I don't know if Little Falls, New York, near Utica.
Okay.
And it was rural. We lived in the country outside of a small city, Little Falls. And my dad was a New York State policeman. And unfortunately, he died accidentally of carbon monoxide poisoning while on duty.
Oh, wow.
In his troop car backed a little bit too close to a snowbank. And they found him and his partner basically in the morning. And his partner just pulled through when my dad passed. So I was 11 at the time. He was 36. It was a blow. It was different.
Yeah. And
I was subsequently raised by his 3 brothers, my 3 uncles, and a close family friend, Giovanni. And basically, they each taught me a lot of different things. I hung out with them a lot. And as I got older, I realized on the bright side of things, I was given a gift of 5 fathers, not just one. So I wanted to honor all of them. 5 fathers gave me a feeling inside like that's the name. She goes, I love the name. So that's why she said she loved the name. So anyways, she goes, let me Google it. She Googles it. She goes back, sweetie, I hate to tell you this, but you're going to have to change that name. I said, why? Well, Jim Beam. And I'm like, what about Jim Beam? Right? I know Jim Beam. Yeah. What about it? Well, Jim Beam just came out with the 5 Fathers limited edition line of bourbons. I'm like, what the blank? I said, are you kidding me? He had 5 fathers too. She goes, what are you going to do? Fight with Jim Beam? Just come up with another name. So I kind of put the phone down. I said, well, these conversations going in the right direction. So I called her. I thought about it another day. I called her on Wednesday and I said, all right, Aim, I got a new name. She goes, what's the new name? I said, Five Saints Distilling. She goes, 5 what? I said, Five Saints Distilling. She goes, all right, I understand 5 fathers, but 5 Saints, where'd you pull that one from?
Yeah.
I said, well, listen, we've been married 26 years and you know me. I've never told you this. I'm going to tell you the truth for the first time. Basically, 75% of the time growing up, I was a pain in the, can you bleep this? I was a pain in the ass.
You can swear. We're talking about alcohol, so
okay. So I was a pain in the ass to raise. So they were fathers for raising me. They were saints for raising me. So Five Saints Distilling was born. We trademarked it, and that's who we are. And you know what a lot of people say is they like the name Five Fathers, but Five Saints has a little ring to it.
Yeah.
You know, distilling and sainthood. I'm not sure the two go together, but at least here at 129 East Main Street, they definitely do. Right? So that's how we started. And, you know, one of the saints was a fireman, my Uncle Ray. And Uncle Ray taught me a lot of things. In fact, I should probably tell you, do we have time to tell you a little about each one?
Please.
So Uncle Joe, the oldest, South Pacific, Army. We hunted, we fished, we did outdoor camping, winter camping, much to my dismay, things like that. Uncle Bob was in the Navy, was in Tokyo Bay, Japanese surrendered. Came home and got a job as in a lumber yard. Ended up buying a local lumber yard next to it and became a lumber magnate. Great guy, and just a super person. Taught me about business and really being a good person, being fair to people. And he also taught me how to drive Mack trucks because he basically would say, Johnny, and he'd chew tobacco and he'd spit it out. Johnny, go get the Mack truck and bring it over the internet and don't grind those goddamn gears anymore. And I said, well, Uncle Bob, it's a little hard. My feet don't quite hit the pedals. I didn't have a driver's license. He said, well, put some duct tape on some 2x4s and get to it. Yeah. I'm like, he was no nonsense kind of guy. And then there was Uncle Ray, who was a fireman. He worked 2 days on, 5 days off. So probably like a lot of firemen out there who may be watching this can relate. He was also a plumber, electrician, carpenter, lawnmower, hedge trimmer. So he started out I was lawnmower, hedge trimmer, then carpentry, plumbing, and then electrical was last. So he taught me all that stuff. And he was also the guy who was in 2 wars. All 3 of these guys were in World War II. And Uncle Ray was the second youngest. My dad was the youngest. He was the baby of the family, John. And he went in the Korean War. Well, Uncle Ray didn't want him to go in alone, so he enrolled with him. So he went into the Korean War as well. And he actually became a Navy corpsman, which I never knew until his funeral. Wow. So anyways, I love them all. Giovanni did not ever go into the service. He had some health conditions. What a fantastic, super guy. He got engaged to my mom in 1972. Wow. My dad died in 70. So in 72, he got engaged. So he'd be my stepdad, right? Right. Well, he's not my stepdad because they were engaged for 48 years but never got married. Whoa. Yeah, here's what happened there. I think they forgot. They would talk about it. They couldn't agree on a date, so the year would pass. They'd talk about it again. Then 2 years would pass. Then they'd talk about it 3 years. Pretty soon they weren't talking about it anymore. They were just, they were a couple. It's common law at that point. Yeah. So, but I was down at the bar here at the distillery after we had opened, and this is probably about 4 or 5 years ago, so this would be like maybe 2019 or so.
Yeah.
And he says, he called me and said, John, how you doing? Giovanni, how you doing there? What's going on? He says, well, I've been thinking. I'm like, okay, what are you thinking about? And I said, well, he says, your mom and I, we ain't getting any younger. I'm like, right. Tell me something I don't know. You're 92 and she's 89. What's new? What other thing don't I know? So he says, it's time to move this relationship forward. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I says, I've been waiting. You're going to make an honest woman out of my mother now? You're actually going to get married? I said, well, I have a distillery. I will bring the booze. Yeah. Right? What's the date? I'm so excited. I got up off the floor. My heart was beating. I couldn't believe it. He says, well, hold your horses. I'm like, what do you mean hold my horses? He says, I'm not talking about getting married. I'm like, you're going to move this relationship forward? What are you talking about? He says, I'm going to sell my house and move in with your mom full time. He's 92. Moves in with her. I saw him about 3 months later. He was sitting in a lazy boy, watching a baseball game, and I kind of, I was going to give him a look. Giovanni, how you doing? He looks at me with the most disgusted look I've ever seen. He says, pardon my language, you have to bleep this one. Worst goddamn mistake I ever made in my goddamn life. I'm like, holy Jesus, bro. I said, what's the matter? He says, what's the matter? He says, your mother's got too much shit in this house. He says, I can't move. I'm like, oh boy. He says, I put my feet up on the ottoman, she's yelling at me. And he says, the worst thing, he says, I've been making my sauce Italian, right? You're making my sauce every Sunday for the last 50 years. I said, I know, and I love your sauce. He says, first Sunday I'm here, I'm making my sauce. He says, I'm at the stove, I get my garlic chopped up, my onions. He says, it takes a while at my age, but we got it going. Yeah. He says, I go to the other end of the kitchen. I'm putting my stewed tomatoes in it, my whatever tomato puree. He says, I come back, the frying pan's missing. He says, Marianne, that was my mother's name. Marianne, where did that goddamn frying pan go? She goes, what? Like, so what? I thought you were done. I threw it out in the garbage and I put it in the dishwasher. She was banned in the kitchen. She no longer was there. God. But that's how we got the name, and that's Giovanni and boys. And we named all of our equipment, which you can check it out later on. Yeah, you were showing me all of our equipment. That's awesome. But that's how we got started. And the firehouse, I wasn't out looking for a fire. I was just looking for a place to have a distillery. Right. We're in Montgomery County, so I drew a radius around my house of like 10 miles. I don't want to drive too far. Yeah. So I started looking at 10-mile radius, and we came to the Montgomery County Development Authority, and I gave a presentation and said, here's the kind of things that we're looking at. The brick, we're looking at good access, natural gas fuel supply, cast iron sewer pipes, good water supply, zoned properly for manufacturing, etc. Right. And they said, well, go look at the firehouse and go look at the prison. So I pulled down. I said, I didn't even know where they were. I didn't know Norristown at the time. So I pulled across here and I looked at this building, and you'll get a shot of it later on. It's a magnificent building. It's just a beautiful bit of architecture. But I said to myself, what am I going to do with that thing? All I want to do is make bottles of booze. I don't need that thing. So then I went and looked at the jail, which is beautiful from the inside, but it's beyond repair once you get into the cells. So we looked around the whole county for almost like a year, and Montgomery County is one of those counties where a lot of developers are also in, and you're competing with them, and I couldn't compete on price, and I was getting pretty discouraged. Sure. So one Sunday I drove past, very discouraged. Looked, I said, firehouse is still there, and I went home and started drinking with a good friend of mine. And basically, during that drinking episode, I started having visions of flags on this building, and I said, I think we got to take another look at that firehouse. Yeah. So I came down, looked at it, and called up a consultant, my good friend Peter from Louisville. Flew him up. He took a look at it, and he said, Johnny, you'll make a hell of a very unique distillery. And basically, that's all it was. And I came down and was fortunately able to purchase the building, and we honored. As you see, as your viewers will see later on, we have a lot of memorabilia here. Mm-hmm. I mean, this firehouse was built in the 1880s, and for the grand sum of $16,000. It's amazing. Wild. $16,000. Wow. Yeah, buy a car for that. But I mean, if you add the time value of money, it's like $450,000, $500,000. Sure. And they finished it, and and it served the county, but also the city of Norristown for all those years. And multiple firemen came through and dedicated their lives. I mean, just beautiful people. And it had really good bones, and it had all the other stuff we needed too. so we were able to take the firehouse and really preserve a lot of the memorabilia. We don't own the memorabilia. It's still owned by the Humane Fire Engine Company. We're kind of like sworn into perpetuity to make sure we protect it, never give any away, never sell it, and tell the story of the Humane, and also display the memorabilia.
Yeah.
So as you go along later for the viewers, you're going to see a lot of memorabilia here. It was all in shoe boxes and different things, but what a rich history that we could work with.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And, and I do believe God works in strange ways, because my wife was like, my God, we got to frame this stuff. What are we going to do? Who can we get to frame? And all of a sudden there's this woman beating on the window out here like, hello. And she goes, hi, what are you doing? I'm so intrigued by the firehouse. She came in, they got talking. She goes, what do you do? She says, I'm a framer. Okay.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Lord. Appreciate that. So in any case, but a lot of memorabilia, and it's just a great building.
Yeah, I mean, it's neat to be. I mean, one of the coolest parts I love about micro and craft distillers, you're often in a place like this, and you just kind of came upon it by happenstance.
We were very fortunate.
Yeah, I love that. I do want to back up a little bit.
Yeah,
you kind of glossed over this Moonshine University thing.
Oh yeah,
I'm curious. So you're here in the distillery. You have this firehouse honoring all the heritage, which
right.
I love it.
Right,
it's really cool. Were you always a whiskey drinker? Were you're like, I'm gonna make spirits, or did you kind of come across that love later on and be like, you know what, I'm gonna make what I want to drink, or or are you a beer guy?
Yeah,
or everything.
Well,
like
I think I'm like a lot of young. You grow up, you're drinking a lot of beer in high school.
Yep.
Pardon me, but at the time, college, a lot more beer, and you really don't get into spirits until later on. And you might start off with maybe vodka.
Sure.
Maybe you try some gin. Maybe some people like it though. Gin's one of those things that people tell me, they either like, I love gin, or I haven't touched gin in 40 years. It must be something anyways. And then I tried bourbon a little bit, and it's an acquired taste.
Yep.
And then, I think it's actually beer to wine, then the spirits is pretty much the progression. I don't know, is that how it works?
That's exactly what I did.
Okay.
Yep.
So today I mostly drink just spirits, bourbon and gin. Those are my two favorite. I shouldn't say it because they're like my kids. They're listening, so I shouldn't say anything. It's like asking your kids, which one do you love the most? Never in front of them. You know what I mean? I love them all. They're all great. Other distillers can relate to that.
Oh,
I just said.
Yes.
You don't want to jinx anything.
Yep.
But basically, just how we decided. We opened in 2016. We bought the building in 2013, and it took pretty much 2 years to do just the first floor. It was kind of a phased approach. Figured we'd do the first floor first, put the distillery in the back where the horses used to be, make the front half with the sloped floors, the tasting room / bar, and the basement we had to put the boiler in, storage, what have you. So it took us about 2 years to do that. And by the 4th of July of 2016, we targeted that for our opening to celebrate the independence of the United States of America. I'm very patriotic. My dad was in the military. I would have gone, but there was nothing going on at the time. There really wasn't.
Yeah.
I graduated 76. Vietnam was over with. Nothing else was going on. And it's like college was waiting for me. So, but in any case.
You were rehabbing the space, and then you decided to distill.
Yeah. So we rehabbed. Right. We rehabbed the first floor.
Yep.
And then in 2016 we actually opened to celebrate the independence of the United States and to celebrate my independence from corporate America.
There you go.
So I was 58 at the time. Said enough's enough. I loved what I did. Did a lot of good things. I thought we did.
Yeah.
But then it was time to move on, and we opened that day, and quite honestly, we started distilling in the summer, which is not the right time to distill. You want to distill in the winter when water's cold and everything. So we just had vodka. You could have any cocktail you wanted that day as long as it was made with vodka. That's all we had. Just vodka. All white bottles, and your viewers will see the labels later on.
Yep.
And we were packed. And, distilling isn't still a novelty, but people in Norristown, we were, the first distillery in Norristown, not the first brewery or anything like that, but first distillery. And then later on, we kind of introduced our products over time. So first we had the vodka, and that was made with 100% corn.
Okay.
Because I had tasted a pure corn vodka in upstate New York made by Adirondack Distilling. So some of your viewers might know Adirondack Distilling. And that was made with New York State corn. Well, I wanted to use PA corn, which I think is so much better than New York corn. Actually, I'm just kidding, New Yorkers. Don't get mad about that. But it's good corn. And I buy it from my friend by the name of Bill Beam, who's become a very good friend of mine.
Sure.
And it makes a very smooth vodka. Well, we make a very smooth vodka with it. We distill it very slow. I call it slow distilled. And people drink it, and they would. I was very pleased because we made it hoping that people would like it, and they would drink it and say, look at me and say, Johnny, this vodka is so blank smooth. I'm like, God, I can't believe it. And I'd look at him and think, you looked at me and thought it was going to be terrible, didn't you? I know. I'm just a lowly distiller. Anyway, but then we came out a little bit later on with our white whiskey, unaged whiskey.
Sure.
And a lot of distillers would do it because you don't have to throw it in a barrel.
Yeah.
You can sell it immediately, so
right.
you don't have that time lag. But the trick is I give mine some extra distillation, which is not really a trade secret, but other distillers do what they do. But we give it some extra distillation, and it makes for a really smooth white whiskey, which has a lot of tequila-like notes, which is really nice. And so we make margaritas with that. Then later on, we came out with our gin next. And I'm Tuscan Italian, so basically, my last name is George. Would have been Giorgi. But when Giuseppe Giorgi, my grandfather, my dad's dad, came to America from Valle Sopra, Valle Sotto, Tuscany, Italy.
Yep.
They had Ellis Island like many other Italians and many immigrants.
Sure.
And he said, my name is Giuseppe Giorgi. And they processed and they said, welcome to America, Joseph George. And he said, thank you for my new country, and I love my new name. So we got the Georges now. But anyways, we're versed in making gin. So our gin is we lower the juniper, which they all have to have juniper, obviously.
Yep.
But we had 9 Italian herbs: rosemary, sage, thyme, chamomile, eucalyptus, vanilla, pepper, coriander, and fennel. It is awesome. In fact, I should probably go get a shot right now for both of us. A little bit later.
You're allowed to.
A little bit later. So, and that was a big hit. In fact, we put it in the Spirits International Awards. Spirits International Awards out in Newport Beach, California. And took a gold medal. I was ecstatic. I'm like, are you kidding me? Oh, my God. And then a year later, I wanted to make a blood orange, of course, still in the Italian theme, right? Blood oranges are big, etc. So with our blood orange, I looked at Salerno, who I actually say are my cousins. They're not really my cousins, but I call them my cousins. I said, they got too much sugar in it. They don't have enough flavor, and they got too much alcohol. So I modified all 3 of those, made it, sent it out, and I said to my team, I said, look, we're going to enter the Spirits International competition, Newport Beach again. I know we won the gin last year. We're all be commended. But, excuse me, if we don't win, don't tell anybody we entered. Nobody will know the difference, right?
Yeah.
So we entered, and I didn't hear anything for like 2 months. I said, all right, team, zip it. These judges obviously don't know what the heck they're talking about. I said, we'll lick our wounds and come back. We'll enter another day. And about 2 weeks later, I get this email. And it's like, congratulations on your SIP awards. I'm like, oh, my God. I said, team, get around. I said, maybe we got an honorable mention. I opened it up. This is for our blood orange liqueur. Congratulations, Five Saints. You were awarded best in class.
Ooh.
Now, there were numerous entries that year. And we entered into the fruit berry liqueur class. And I was like overwhelmed. I couldn't believe it. I said, really? I looked and saw it was a product from Spain and a product from France, which were the platinum and the double golds, because we beat everybody, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I couldn't believe it. So I did what any self-respecting distiller would and should do, and I did. I got on the email. I said, dear judges, John George, owner, founder, distiller at Five Saints, I have a question for you guys. Do you have the right email address? They emailed me back, Mr. George, did you submit a blood orange liqueur? I said, yes. Well, then we don't. We have the right email address. Congratulations. I want to make sure we're 129 East Main Street, Norristown, PA. But what an award. What an honor.
Massive for a small place.
Our blood orange is just awesome. I mean, they put us next to Grand Marnier in the liquor stores, and people just love our stuff. So
yeah.
So that was the 4th one. Then we came out with we have a rum, an absinthe, and a whiskey. And I think then the one we came out with next was, quite honestly, the absinthe. And our absinthe is a raspberry lavender.
I saw that. I was looking on the shelf. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, being the saints we are at the saintly distillers, the deviant distillers we are at Five Saints, we had to make an absinthe. You know the story of absinthe.
I do.
It was banned until like 2007.
Yeah.
Because it was considered hallucinogenic.
Yeah, the wormwood.
And as a pharmacist, I debate this all the time as I'm making it. I'm like, is it the fact that there was hallucinogen, I think, thujones, in the wormwood extract that cause hallucinations, or quite honestly, thujones or not, at 118, 120 proof, you drink enough, you're still going to see some visions.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know, I debate that, but I think it's the alcohol myself, quite honestly. Anyways, but we make it, and my philosophy is make products that are differentiated. Who makes a savory Tuscan-style gin?
Not many people, right.
The Blood Orange Liqueur, we differentiated that. We've won awards, numerous, just beautiful, lovely. Raspberry lavender absinthe, we were considered deviants. We were considered outcasts. What? This is not absinthe. People would taste it like, oh my God, thank you for making a new absinthe. It's incredible. All we've had is green. Nothing against green absinthe. My buddies at Philadelphia, a little shout out to Philadelphia Distilling. My buddies out in Philadelphia, they make a heck of a green absinthe. And then there's my friends at Weigel out in Pittsburgh. They make a beautiful absinthe. So, there's a lot of. I just didn't want to make another green absinthe. Yeah. I think the world had enough of them. So we made a raspberry lavender, and people love it. It makes great Sazeracs, and our recipes are online. So if you have any take home or whatever, you're gonna make some. Do you like whiskey? Have you had a Sazerac? Have you ever had a Sazerac?
That's one of my favorite. I was introduced to it when I first was able to drink at 21. No earlier, I swear to God.
Wow. I love it.
It's great. No, I was introduced to it when I was first able to drink down in New Orleans on a trip.
Yeah, New Orleans, sure.
Sazerac.
Yeah.
And Sazerac and a Vauquerie. Both those cocktails are one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Manhattan guy too, so same vein.
Beautiful.
But yeah,
beautiful.
I love Sazeracs.
They are good. They are good. It's like a spicy, beautiful, high-test cocktail.
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually. And I don't spray the bottles. I just add the absinthe in there and leave it in there and add a little bit more. In any case.
Hey, y'all. Alan Cogan here with Crafted Conversations. If you want to support the show and the mission of sharing the stories of craft, head over to buymeacoffee.com/craftedcombos. I'd really appreciate throwing a couple bucks my way to help me pay for travel, the equipment that I use, the time that I spend editing, all the software that I use. I really appreciate any support you can give me. And if you can't afford a couple bucks, at least give me some feedback or go over to our YouTube and subscribe or follow us on Spotify. Anything helps to make sure that we share the story of craft and give these small business owners a little limelight and get them out on a platform that really showcases what they're doing. I can't do this without you guys or your support, so I would really appreciate you pitching in and helping out. So I'll see you out there, and I really appreciate it. Cheers.
Then we came out with a rum, a maple bourbon butter pecan flavored rum. Oh, what? A maple bourbon butter pecan flavored rum. And we call it Humane #1 rum for a couple of reasons. One is no animals are hurt in the making of it. And I tell the people, I say, well, were any animals hurt in the making of your other products? And I'm like, no, well, okay. But we're also in the Humane Fire Engine Company #1.
Right.
So that's why we call it Humane Fire Engine Company #1 rum. And people say, well, how'd you come up with that combination of flavor? Now, I could tell them a lie. And I could say, we did all focus groups and all kinds of marketing research and blah, 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 blah. It couldn't be further from the truth. You distill all the time. You're working hard. You need a break. So you go and you mow the lawn on your riding lawnmower.
Sure.
It's great. Immediate results. You need to do laps, right? So I'm on my lawnmower. It's like 55th year into this business. I'm like, it's time to make a rum. I knew I was going to make a rum. And I'm thinking about it. So the first lap is like, what flavors? Second lap, I'm like, I'm from upstate New York. Maple's a big flavor. I like maple. Yeah. And then the second or the third lap, it's like, I like bourbon. And fourth lap, I'm like, I got to have AIM. It reminds me, I got to have AIM get some butter pecan ice cream. It's my favorite ice cream. Sixth lap, I jumped off. I said, you know what? I like all those. I'm just going to combine all three, and I think I'll like it 3 times as much. I did, and guess what? I liked it 3 times. And a lot of people. In fact, it's one of our best sellers. It's amazing.
Wow.
And it's, some consider a dessert rum. A lot of people just consider it great rum. I said to people, what do you think of my rum? They say, Johnny, your rum is so blank good. We're not going to bleep that. We're blank good. Bleep good. We're drinking it straight around the rocks.
Wow.
And I said, is that a good thing? They said, the good stuff we drink straight. The other stuff we mix. I'm like, sounds good to me. I'm still going to drink it straight, man. It's awesome. So anyways, that's the rum. And then last but not least, and this is unlike a lot of other distillers, we came out with our bourbon style whiskey.
Sure.
Now, a lot of distillers made that right off the bat because, bourbon is so popular.
It's big. It's massive.
I mean, you can't be a distiller if you're not making vodka and bourbon.
Right.
But this was, 7 years in, 6.5 years in? All of a sudden, we're launching our bourbon style whiskey. Now, notice I'm saying bourbon style. I can't call it a bourbon because here's what we do with ours. First of all, it's the same mash bill as our unaged whiskey. 75% corn, 25% rye. The difference is that we age the bourbon style, but the way we age it is different than making bourbon. With bourbon, it has to be new white oak barrels.
Right.
And if for any of your business viewers out there who have to hire lobbyists in different industry, if you need good lobbyists, hire the barrel lobbyists. They are the strongest lobbyists in the world because the law that they got enacted, this is amazing. This is incredible when I think about it. It keeps me up at night. You must have a new NEW, underlined, bolded, white oak barrel to age your whiskey to call it bourbon. You can only use it once. And then you know where those barrels go?
Scotland.
To Scotland, to South Africa. I've been to South Africa, 3 ships distilling. They're all from, Louisville, Kentucky, whatever. And they use them 100 times more. But we can only use them once.
Right.
So we started out using barrels way back when. And we would just make small batches and pretty much drink it all ourselves. You got to do marketing research.
That's right. It's good. That's a good focus group.
But the thing with barrels, there's a couple of, first of all, it's slow aging. The surface area to volume ratio is not really that high. So it takes a longer time.
Sure.
Because all the aging really takes place at the surface of the wood.
Right.
Not away from it. You lose product over time.
A lot of angel share.
The angel share, yep. And as your viewers know, that's why old whiskey costs so much because there's just less of it to go around. And then the barrels are also dangerous, quite honestly. A 53-gallon barrel weighs about 600 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, so when I was younger, I used to be able to lift those, but now, it's a little bit tougher. So. Anyways, but you look at the big boys, the Jim Beams, good old Jim Beam, my buddy, and Jack Daniels and all those. They have these cranes and hoists that come down, grab it.
Oh yeah.
Put it on, it rotates, and then comes out of the bung hole and everything. It's incredible.
Yep.
But we don't have that. So we use tanks back there, and I think your viewers later on, you're going to go get some shots of it. Yeah. And what we do is we have stainless steel tanks, 600 gallons, and we fill those up with clear whiskey right off the still, 170 something proof on average. And then we use wooden spiral rods, 48 inches long, 2 inch in diameter spirals. And I think there's a picture back there. You can get a picture.
Yep.
Six to a bag. Think of a bag of tea. How about a bag of wood?
Mm-hmm.
A bag of these things goes in. We let it steep for about 14 weeks. We take that bag out. We put a fresh bag in. So instead of making a big pot of tea with tea, we're making a big tank of whiskey, bourbon style,
right,
with bags of wood, not bags of tea. So when it comes out, it's a bourbon. Now the TTB is probably listening to me and saying, "We got to talk to that boy."
Well, I'm sure
it's a bourbon style.
Yeah.
In fact, we have this right in front of us right now.
Well, I was going to say because you mentioned the TTB, and you can't call it a bourbon. Legally.
I can't because I did not use new white oak barrels. In fact, I don't have bourbon anywhere on that label. I
was going to ask you did you try doing a bourbon style, like those words, bourbon style? Probably not even allowed.
I didn't even try.
Yeah, I was
just
curious.
Because I know that they're never ever, although it's not a bad idea.
Because that's the one thing that
or insert the word style after this. I could try that as rare bourbon style whiskey.
As a lot of
should have a little sip of this.
Okay, let's do that first.
Cheers to all your viewers, and cheers to being a distiller in America.
Amen.
Enjoy
that.
it.
Yeah, thanks for your hard work.
That's 100 proof. Is that smooth?
Yeah, that doesn't really 100 proof.
That's 100 proof.
That's good.
75% corn, 20, and aged the way we age it. Wow. You can just sip on that. It's just so smooth.
Oh, that's good.
And I sip on it a lot at night.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, it's good stuff. You might find yourself in receipt of one of those bottles on your way home to Washington.
I wouldn't mind that.
My good friend.
But I was going to say that the market the market has been so weird in the last 10 years with bourbon exploding. Rye is starting to make a little bit of a comeback. Agave spirits, which is an American tequila, is starting to come up. Gin and vodka have always been big. But micro distilleries like yourself have the freedom to play.
I'm going to have another one.
No, please.
I mean, it's only 20 at 2. So.
That's why we're here.
Go ahead.
No, but you can experiment and play, and you're your own boss. And you were making mention of how you figured out how to do the maple
the bourbon butter pecan
rum.
Yeah.
And just an idea that you thought about. You could have made that and said, "Oh, this is terrible," and then move on. But you didn't have to please anybody with a PowerPoint presentation. I love that, like Jim Beam. But I'd be curious about how this plays in the market if you were able to put bourbon style, because it's just whiskey. Because no one really knows that process. Because if you can take away that American oak barrel aspect of it, and you could probably use whatever wood you want. I'm going to use cherry wood for this batch. I'm going to use this wood for this batch.
Actually, you hit on something there. There are a lot of distillers who are playing with different types of wood.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a barrel, because nobody makes cherry wood barrels. I know maybe they do. But
yeah.
You're inserting cherry pieces of wood into it.
Right.
And there's a really big explosion of that. And there's a big explosion of using heritage corn. Wooden Hat Distillery. I hope I said that right. He's a good friend of mine. He pushes and is teaching us all about heritage corn.
Yep.
You know, the colored corn that we used to put out for, Thanksgiving and what have you.
Bloody Butcher and all that different
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. But just going back, I think I might try. I'll talk to the TTB about bourbon style. And I like the word style because I'll tell you a true story. The TTB has called me a couple of times. One is I was a little light on the amount of alcohol that I produced based on the amount of corn that I used. That was as an initial distiller. And what had happened is, we use these tri-clamps in all your distilling community. People know what these are. And, you use them you can put them on in your dark. Well, I was new and I thought I had it clamped right. And I was transferring from the mash tun out to my fermentation tank via pumps and hoses and what have you. And I came out to take a call. I went in, the damn thing had slipped off. The hose slipped off. And I had corn mash all over the floor.
Ugh.
I couldn't believe it. And, I didn't see it right away, and I slipped on. I'm laying on my back. I'm like, what is this sticky substance? Like, oh, my God, I'm laying in corn mash. Anybody knows what corn mash is like? It's just sticky, thick, gooey.
Thick oatmeal.
And I said, what was I thinking? I used to be a respected pharmaceutical executive. Now look at me. I'm laying in corn mash. But anyways, that's the first time. So I got a call, and I had to tell them, explain that to the women from the TTB who called me. Well, I got another call on our gym label because, you have to submit all your labels to the TTB in order for them to be approved.
Yep.
So I had submitted the vodka, no problem. I submitted the white whiskey, no problem. I submitted the gin. I'm in the back, and I got a call, and, and I swear, now, my experience, and this is based on that all the representatives of TTB are Southern women. Nothing against Southern women. I love them. But from the accent, hello, is there a Mr. George there? I said, yeah, this is Mr. George. Hello, this is so-and-so from the TTB. I said, oh, nice to meet you. He said, we need to discuss your gin label submission. Of course, I'm so excited. I'm like, oh, that was my, I think that's my best label. I love it. What do you guys think? Isn't that the greatest label you've ever seen? She goes, greatest label? She goes, son. They call you son. Now you're in trouble.
They're Southern.
Yeah, I love them. But basically, it's not approvable. I said, why isn't it? She goes, Mr. George, seriously. Tuscan gin? I said, yeah, Tuscan gin. She goes, let me ask you something. Are you making that gin in Tuscany?
Oh.
I said, no, I'm making it at 129 East Main Street in Norristown, PA. She goes, there you go. You're not going to be able to call it Tuscan gin. I'm like, whoa, hold on. I said, what? She goes, well, we got laws. I said, they're my cousins. They don't care, right? She goes, no, they care. So I said, well, we talked about it. And I was telling her using 9 Italian herbs and spices and all that. And my family's from Tuscany and blah, 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 blah. She goes, well, there is something that we could do. And I said, well, she goes, if you're willing, I'm like, I'm listening. If you're willing to insert the word style after Tuscan and call it savory Tuscan style gin, it's approvable. I said, whoa, let me repeat back to you what I think I just heard. If I insert the word style, savory Tuscan, it's good to go. She goes, I said, consider it done. Thank you. Goodbye. So I like the word style, and I hadn't thought of that, but I might call him up and see. But I don't know, because bourbon, as soon as you say bourbon, bourbon style, all of a sudden I'm opening up a whole can of worms.
Well,
we'll see.
Yeah, well, the weird thing too is that like there is this perception that's starting to break the mold in the market that age means everything. Yeah. Everyone wants a 6-year-old bourbon, and listen.
They always ask me, how long was it aged? I'm like, there's so much more to aging than the time.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. And I think I think what you're doing is really unique. Do you know of anyone else who's doing the way that you're doing that?
I don't know offhand, but I know there's a lot of distillers that are doing it.
Yeah. But because if you can break into the market and say, hey, in blind tasting, here's a bourbon that was aged for four years in Kentucky with a barrel, as is tradition, but it took 4 years to do it, versus steeping it with the same type of wood. I just wonder how comparable they are, because there's a lot of tradition in whiskey making that people are stuck with, and this tastes like a bourbon to me.
It's a bourbon. Well,
you know what I mean?
It's a bourbon style
for
all practical purposes.
Yeah. But would that help your notoriety if you could put bourbon style, so people look at that and say, hey, it's not. I don't know.
I mean, it looks like a bourbon, and they probably infer that it's a bourbon.
Yeah.
But I can't call it a bourbon. But it's a good. And I got to put a little plug out for the Barrel Mill, which is where I get my wood staves. Barrel Mill, good people, great people. So you want to get your staves there. But in any case, there's a lot of different woods. You could use maple. There's ambrosio, something that's with cinnamon kind of flavor. I don't like it myself, but there's a lot of things going on.
Ambrana.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Ambrana cask. Yeah,
Ambrana,
Oh yeah, those. It tastes like cinnamon toast.
Just like cinnamon
crunch.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Cinnamon, it's like.
There's a big one coming out. A lot of people are doing it now with jackfruit.
Oh wow.
Jackfruit barrels.
Okay.
I don't know. So
it's experimentation. It's great.
And that's probably the best part of your job, is because you don't have a corporate overlord to tell you what to do.
I don't have any.
You can do whatever the hell you want. And if you want to experiment with a certain mash or whatever, I'm sure you've had wazoo ideas. I'm sure there's stuff that maybe you'll tell me later that, 10 years down the road, we have this coming out. But
I'll have to take them out back and have a conversation. Well, we actually are working on 2 new products, and remind me, I'll tell you a little bit more about those. Those have been in refinement for about a year.
Sure.
But you touched on something, that the beauty of small distilling, and it's the truth. We are artists, if you will.
Absolutely.
Our canvas is alcohol. That's what our canvas is. And we don't call one another up and say, hey, nobody's ever called me and say, Johnny, I have a lot. They're all friends.
Yeah.
The Pennsylvania Distillers Guild, a great group of people, Eight Oaks, us, Philadelphia Distilling, Dad's Hat. We're all good friends. We share, and we want one another to be successful because we're all artists. And the beauty is that basically we all make different things. We don't call one another up and ask for opinion. We just do it.
Yeah.
And my vodka is going to be different than somebody else's vodka. My gin is different. And that's the beauty of it. Somebody might like mine and not like his, or like his, not like mine. And because they always say, geez, so-and-so is, near you, isn't that a competitor? I said, no, they're a good colleague. You know how many people drink in this world, first of all? I mean, come on, give me a break. And we have a following. I have a certain attitude towards distilling, and it's reflected in my products, our products. And that's the beauty of distilling. So, look at the proliferation of distilleries across the U.S. And I mean, you're interviewing with me, but man, you're going to have your work cut out with these guys. There's so many of them.
I know. Well, that's why
it's amazing.
That's why I'm looking forward to doing this more and more, because as I told you off camera, by the time this comes out, I will have a child.
Congratulations, by the way.
But as we talk right now, she'll pop in about a month.
Beautiful.
And that'll restrict my travel a little bit. But there's so much out there, and I'm not just doing distilleries. I'm doing breweries and wineries, and that I can just go there. I could stay put within 30 minutes from me. I probably have 17 episodes.
Oh yeah.
But I love that, because that gives more. Talk about the community. You are friends with all the guys around you.
Absolutely.
And you all make different things.
Absolutely.
And that gives more variety to the market and makes me happy as a drinker. And you too as a drinker, but
yeah.
And gives you ideas too. Like, hey, you did this, you tried this, I'm going to try that too in a different way. I love that.
I agree with all that. And I just think the biggest challenge that we smaller distilleries, micro distilleries, limited distilleries have is we just don't have the marketing budget that the big boys have.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, they have good products, but their products achieve sales volumes that are based on marketing and message awareness, etc. And we just can't match that. So what do? We go to farmers markets, we do tastings, and we grow more organically, but slowly, but yet we grow, and we do what we do because we love it. And I'm not saying Jack Daniels didn't love what he did, or Jim Beam, but again, we can't compete with their marketing, but there's other ways to grow, and we'll grow, and we're getting there, and
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. I mean, listen, before Prohibition, I don't know how many distilleries there were, but there were a lot of them.
Yep.
There were tons of distilleries. And I think we're getting back to that time where, you're going to you might have a distillery in every town or every other town or what have you, just like bakeries and breweries, etc. I mean, in Norristown, we have now Von C, my good buddies. Hey, Von C guys, great group of guys, women team, great products, and that's just reflection of really what's going on in the U.S.
Do you think there's a good like the consumer wants a good story and a good product? Because Jim Beam and Jack Daniels, they have history. Buffalo Trace,
yes.
They have great history.
Yeah.
They're a great product. That's fine. But they've become kind of massive, and they're all the same. And that is what it is. Every white label Jim Beam bottle you buy will taste the same, looks the same. It's designed that way, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's what they want.
And they're in 250 different countries, and that's okay.
Yes.
But I think there's a response to you, John George, telling me your story about your family and your name.
I do.
You're in a firehouse.
Yep.
You're in Norristown, a small town in Pennsylvania, just north of Philly. Like, there's a little bit more to it where it's like, when I'm hearing what you're telling me about your whiskey and your gin, how you came up with that idea, that makes me want to try it, and I'm going to buy a bottle. I don't get that. I'm here talking to you. I didn't have to go through a PR firm.
Yeah, I mean, you came up from Washington, D.C. I'm just amazed, and I'm so pleased.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think people want that story behind the product. I mean, have you seen that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we do farmers markets. In fact, I did a talk at the American Distilling Institute.
Sure.
About 2 years ago on the joy of farmers markets.
Yeah.
And that's what I called the team, the talk, the joy of farmers market. And to get people there, I put up the joy of sex in the picture of the book. And there was people like, I came out, it was packed. Every single chair was packed. So I started off with, folks, I'm John George, and I'm here to talk to you about something that's so pleasurable. It's something I hope you can participate at least once every day of your life. I want to talk about the joy of, and I hit the flick, farmers markets. And literally some people got up and left. I couldn't believe it. But anyways, my point is, and it was fun, that, farmers markets are a chance to share your story in person. And what I tell everybody is, and I tell them about the story and this and that, and they ask, and when they're leaving, I say, oh, by the way, I got one other thing to tell you. If anybody calls and asks you what you're doing, Joy and Peter, or, Ron and Samantha, whatever their names, I said, if anybody calls, don't lie. Tell them the truth. Tell them you're hanging out with one another and with Five Saints. And I tell and they all kind of laughed. That's right. I said, what they might say is, we did that last night. We had a hell of a good time. Well, hanging with the Saints, right?
I love it.
So, it's absolutely. And what are we now? We're 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And, our products have gained a good following. We're considered premium spirits, really good spirits. The challenge that we have is getting in with distributors.
Yeah.
It's really tough. As good as our products are, we're still looking for a distributor. Just one, just to get into another state. So if there's any distributors out there watching right now, come talk to us. We've got great products. We've got a story. We're dedicated to community, family, quality, just like the men, the Five Saints were, my uncles, my dad, and Giovanni. And we want to grow. My family, my gosh, people want to get involved, and I'm like, well, let us grow a little bit more, etc. And I have no regrets. We've been in this for how long now? 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we've grown every single year. And it's not like a job. It's just, I get up, and unlike corporate America, nothing against anybody's, I was in corporations a long time, big pharma, and I had international assignments, etc. Your job is to make sure that your boss is looking good.
Right.
And I hope that nobody gets mad at me for that. But I think you're going to smile and say to yourself, that's true.
That's generally true.
I mean, that's a good part of your job. Here, I get up in the morning and say, what is it that I really need to get done today? There's no pause. Like today, it's like, I need to approve my labels so I can do my 375 ml sizes of certain spirits we're going to come out with. We need to do a spirits run on the vodka low wines that we stripped about 3 or 4 days ago. We need to clean out some tanks. We need to rearrange, order bottles. We need to approve our bottles and get like another 3 pallets of bottles in. So it's that just doing that.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're doing what you need to do. And I think that's big. But you know what? they always say that if you like what you do, you're not working a day in your life. Did I grow up thinking, oh, I can't wait to be a distiller? Not at all. But, it's in your genetics. I like making a product. Been an entrepreneur. I had another business where we laser engraved baseball bats for all kinds of gift and award occasions. And that really was great. That was a great occasion. And my mother-in-law, Ruth, who we lost not that long ago, 3 or 4 years ago, she was great. I got along good with her. And, I always told her, I said, Ruth, we're going to do laser engraved baseball bats. She goes, but who's going to want to buy a bat? And every time we sell X number of bats today, I say, Ruth, you want to know how many bats? I know. She goes, I know. Who's going to want to buy a bat? I'll tell you who's going to want to buy. Anyways, so then I become a distiller, and and she'd call up Amy, again, my young bride, and she'd be talking to Amy. I said, is that Ruth? Let me talk to Ruth. I said, Ruth, how are you? She goes, oh, hello, John. How are you? I love Ruth. She was great. We got along good. And basically said, I got 2 things I got to tell you. I got to get this first one off my chest. It's been bugging me. I really need you to know. She goes, what? She goes, I really want you. I said, I really want you to know. She goes, yeah, well, what do you want me to know? I said, I want you to know you are my favorite mother-in-law. She goes, oh, geez, thanks a lot. I was worried about that one. Thanks for telling me I could sleep at night now. And I said, the second one is, I have to apologize to you. She goes, you didn't do anything wrong. I said, Ruth, I need it. She goes, but John, you're a good guy. You didn't do anything right. I said, please let me. She goes, all right, what did you do now? Right. What do I need to know about? I said, well, I need to apologize. You wanted the best for little Amy, your daughter. You wanted a doctor, a lawyer, dentist. Hell, even a garbage man would have been great. I said, she becomes a moonshiner's wife. I am so sorry. She goes, just keep it coming my way and all's forgiven. No, that's just, I'm having a lot of fun there. But, I love being a distiller. Yeah. I think it's the epitome, and it's what I do now, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. 8 years has gone by. I can't believe how long it's gone, but, you're busy. We're growing, and we're always thinking about how can we enhance the product? How can we maximize the efficiency with which we produce the products? Make sure we're investing in the right areas with our limited resources, making sure the quality is there, doing product research. Oh, I did say that we're working on 2 more products.
Yeah, tell me about it, if you can.
What I will say to your viewers and to you, I'm not going to tell you the names, but one is another rum, and there's 2 beautiful flavors which just go together so well.
Oh.
And I'm not even going to tell you what the flavors are, but you might be the lucky recipient of a bottle when it comes out. Then the other one is of a liqueur, and again, I can't tell you what the flavors are, but they're awesome. And I'm thinking about names. One of the things that I want to change is that, like when we came out with the blood orange liqueur, I should have given it a name and then said it is a blood orange liqueur.
Sure.
It's kind of like having a dog. What's a dog's name? Dog. Okay. What's the dog's name? Dog.
Yeah.
That's a blood orange liqueur. What is that? It's our Five Saints blood orange liqueur. Well, people know, but I got to give it a name.
Sure.
So these are going to get some names and then a description of what they are. So stay tuned.
Gotcha.
But anyways, we've been working on those, and it's coming along. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you haven't maybe started the R&R process yet, but you want to do? It's on your list, like a single malt or like a rye.
No, actually, we're looking and kicked off, ready to go cocktails.
Okay.
So the market has gone in that direction.
Yeah, RTDs are big.
Yeah, and they're big, and I've got 6 of them in development.
Cool.
So hopefully they'll come out maybe by summertime. You want to make sure that they're the ones. Multi-dose vials. Here's the pharmacist in me speaking. Multi-dose. Numerous cocktails in a pack. I might call it a multi-dose bottle.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are putting them in cans, which are single use. Single dose. Unit. We would call those unit dose in pharmaceuticals. I'm going to make a multi-dose.
My wife works in the medical industry, so she's going to laugh at this.
Okay. What does she do, if I'm going to ask?
She's a medical laboratory scientist.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. She'll know multi-dose and single dose or unit dose. So that's what we're doing there. Other than that, it's just automating, looking to put in a more automated bottling line.
Yeah.
Because as we've gotten bigger, orders have gotten bigger and more frequent. We just don't have the capacity, the time, the staff to do it the traditional way, which is a 4-bottle filler, a lot of manual labor, et cetera.
Sure.
So we really need to automate that so that we can meet the demands of all the orders that are coming in. But a lot of times, in where would we like to go? Well, we're Five Saints Distilling. and we're big fans of the New Orleans Saints. Now, I love the Eagles too, guys. I'm a Philadelphia Eagles, but the association with that is that when we were doing the bat business, right, with laser engraved baseball bats.
Yeah.
I can tell you this now, but it was a secret back then. The New Orleans Saints would buy bats from us, laser engraved baseball bats, and they were called Bring the Wood bats. They were motivational bats. They would put them in lockers of the each player's locker before the game.
Oh, wow.
And it was just meant to play hard, little something. They became collector's items, and we would do it all the time. They call my wife up. My wife didn't even know who the New Orleans Saints were when they first called her. But anyways, so we really, they went to the Super Bowl with our bats because the odds were if they bought our bats, the odds went in their favor higher that they were going to win. The odds in Vegas would change. The FedEx guys would come, and they'd get the boxes, and they'd go, oh, my God, this is a bat game. And I'm not telling any secrets. I mean, this was true, And my wife had blessed them with holy water that we had and everything. And they said, it's a bad game. They get on their phone. It's a bad game. About 10 minutes later, the odds in Vegas were going up more in favor of the Saints because of these bats. But anyways, so we got a heritage. I have to touch base with the New Orleans Saints organization because I would love to get our Five Saints spirits into the New Orleans Saints, arena to serve as one of their premium liqueurs, etc. I just have to write the letter and stuff. So hopefully they'll be receptive to that, but we'll see.
That's awesome.
Sean Payton was always very supportive, great guy. We loved him.
Yeah.
And so in any case, so that's one of the avenues, but we're just looking for a distributor. So, just give us a plug. And if there's any distributors that are watching this, give me a buzz. Or email John at fivesaintsdistilling.com. It's all spelled out.
Perfect. And
I'm sure Alan will put some contact info and such or what have you. But that's where we're at, and we're going to be here. And all I say is, to your viewers, we're available online. Can I say this? We're available online at fivesaintsdistilling.com. And you'll hit the landing page. There's a Shop Now button, right?
Yep.
You hit that, and then it goes to another page that says Shop PA or Shop National. If you're in PA, Shop PA. Or if you're outside of PA, hit the Shop National. And then it just takes you shop as normal. And right now, for $20, we'll ship you 2 bottles, or we'll ship you 200 bottles for $20.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
I love it.
So in any case, that's us. Do you have any other questions of me?
Well, I just wanted to say for the record, because you said Eagles and Saints.
I love them both.
I'm a devout Packers fan. I want to make sure people know that I'm not just
you
here.
You are from Wisconsin.
Right. I'm not here just schmoozing some Eagles fan. He's giving me whiskey.
It's just too bad that the Eagles, whenever they meet up with the Packers, well, we're not going to talk about that. I'm not sure what happened last time. But the Eagles, talk about the Eagles. What the heck happened? We don't want to get into sports. Just listen to 94.1 WIP radio, and you'll get the whole scoop. But we love our Eagles. They're great. And, Philadelphia fans are like no others.
I'm aware.
Yeah, don't wear competitive clothing to our games. It's not a good thing.
Yeah. No, well, I will say, I do want to compliment you and what you do here. And
Thank you.
I mean, I think it's a really cool thing that you have going, that you're preserving the heritage of this firehouse.
Absolutely.
It's almost an additional job to making the whiskey. And I think that's it's a really cool part of the history that you do. You honor it, and
Thank you.
You continue it, but also, you're making a craft spirit that you pour your heart and soul into, probably blood, sweat, and tears too, as does your wife.
We try to keep the tears out of the spirits.
It gets boiled out in form.
Yeah, it gets boiled out. Yeah.
But you're making something that's great, and giving the TLC to it, and I appreciate your artistry.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing to enhance the awareness of distilling in America.
Yeah,
I mean, George Washington was a distiller. He used to feed his grains to the pigs, and a lot of people said his pork tasted like bourbon.
Yes.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But in any case, I thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for driving up from Washington, D.C. to talk about Five Saints. I mean, it's incredible. So
I'm glad I'm here. I had the day off, so why not?
Enjoy. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Hey, shall we?
Yeah. Cheers.
Here's to your viewers, and here's to distilling in America.
Appreciate it, man.
Enjoy.
Cheers. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate a follow and share on social media, subscribe to our YouTube, and be sure to give us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Everything you see and hear is out of pocket for us, including travel. If you support our mission of showcasing the amazing stories behind these small businesses, do me a favor and head over to buymeacoffee.com/craftedconvos. Buy Me a Coffee is an awesome way to help creators like me with simple one-time donations or a monthly contribution. Every dime goes into giving these breweries, distilleries, and more some much-deserved limelight. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out. Cheers!